everyone. So we are back again from this break. So we have a very interesting speaker now. He is the Director of Commerce at Ranosys Technologies based out of a UK office. So please welcome Maurizio Stella. Now let me give you a quick bio about Maurizio. He's having over 12 years of experience in the e-commerce industry, and he's worked with businesses of all sizes, and he's used all sorts of systems across many industries and territories. His experience is predominantly with Magento Commerce and to a certain extent with Salesforce. However, he's a person who's truly passionate about leveraging technology in general to deliver change, let it be in terms of growth, harmonization, or process optimization. So today we have Maurizio who will be talking about how you can prepare your business before moving to Magento. Over to you, sir.
All right. Hello, everyone. So today is an opportunity for me to tell you a little bit about how to prepare for a Magento migration. In general, I would say for a migration, but we'll try to go a little bit more into the specifics of Magento. So let me share my screen so that we can start with the presentation. All right, here we go. Should be able to see my screen now. Okay. So first thing is, why am I doing this? And there are two main points for me. The first one is that businesses should not need to become IT experts. So in the preparation for a project, I'm not going to be focusing on the purely technical aspects of this migration. And the second part is that building a new solution should always be exciting. And I feel that in many cases, companies go through this process with maybe with a little bit of fear and with many unknowns. You know, being a nearly purely technical project, there are aspects that people may not be comfortable with. So to get an understanding of everything, I'll start by saying what I do. And essentially, it's divided in two parts. One is to understand businesses and employees in the same way, really. So talking about the goals, the constraints, the ambitions, capabilities, and so on. And I've been doing this for now about 15 years. I've been speaking and working with, for sure, over 100 clients and with over 150 projects. So these are small and big projects and all migration projects. And I haven't been involved in the full extent of all these projects. So it varies. However, there are some things that are in common to all of these. And the second thing I normally focus on is to chart a route or chart routes for the clients I work with. So this is a matter of designing a sustainable digital evolution roadmap, essentially. And the way to do this is to first explore how the business operates and how they think, and then find ways to make everything sustainable. So kind of spread the work in a manner that will bring the value, but also won't make the project too complicated. And then I essentially align the teams to make sure that everybody works smoothly and nicely together. So let's look at what the key success stages are in terms of being able to roll out a successful new Magento site. But in general, again, this is probably applicable to pretty much all platforms. So I would divide it in three parts. One is preparation, the second part is implementation, and the third one is evolution. And I would like to stress out that it's not maintenance, because if you choose, or those that choose to maintain a site over time, inevitably they will fall behind their competitors. And this is because they keep evolving and instead you're sitting still. So we need to approach the project in a manner that once you go live, the go live of the project is not the end of the project. It's actually the beginning of a journey. And this is something that I'm particularly keen on for everybody to understand. And e-commerce is never complete. It is always evolving. So we will be focusing on the preparation of this. And again, it's completely non-technical. And I hope that you will find these insights useful and that will help you think about how to approach a project before venturing into it. And all this that we're going to be talking about happens before the discovery phase of the actual project. So the idea is that this is homework for you to do before signing a project. Okay, so this is how I prepare, how I would normally prepare my clients for a Magento project. And I divide it mainly in these 5 areas. So I look at the stakeholders, I look at the relationship, at the ambition level, and then we go into the requirements and the processes. So there is quite a clear split, and most of the companies that I've worked with have started their process focusing on the requirements and on the processes. The requirements to make sure that the agency and the platform deliver exactly what they want, and the processes to make sure that they do it on a timely manner and to keep control over the budget and the timeline. However, the ones that seem to be more successful in the end are the ones that actually focus on the stakeholders, on the team, for example, on the relationship with the agency, and on sharing that ambition so that it's clear to everyone. So, you know, those ones, as I say here, they achieve more with less and in less time. So strangely enough, the things on the left seem to be more important in some ways than things on the right. But it's not exactly like that. It's more about what to prioritize at the beginning of the process rather than going straight into the technical details. Okay. So we will be looking into these one by one. So I'll start with the stakeholders, and the stakeholders are the business, the employees, the agency, the platform, the third-party technology providers, the customers. These are all stakeholders, and they all form one team. Now, you may think that the customers aren't actually part of the team, but in fact they are, because they provide you with so much information that you may already have, unless you're a startup. But in that case, still, you probably have done your research, and what comes from the customer is just as important as any other part of the information. So we need to start reasoning in the matter that the team, there is only one team. So the agency is not an extension of your team. There isn't the fact that the providers, the technology providers, are additional people that kind of chime in every now and again for a specific thing. It's all one team, and all these stakeholders form one team, which from now on I will be referring just to the team in general. So this is important for the next stage. So when we look at the relationship, there are 3 things in relationships which are really important, and they really contribute towards having a successful project. The first one is understanding a new type of trust, let's say. So the way I intend trust is the freedom to be able to challenge anything and anyone, because that there is enough trust to help everybody believe and understand that it's in the best interest of the project to challenge whatever requirement, issue, or line of thought it may be. The second one is proactivity. And again, this is not like, we don't expect people to be super fast in taking action. It's more about being, in a way, self-aware that you are part of this team and part of the components that create the success for the project. So you need to have that freedom of openly being able to flag your own mistakes and doubts and delays and everything, knowing that the rest of the team will be there to find a way together to solve the issue. So it's not going to be a finger pointing game. This needs to be done. It needs to be there from the client's perspective as well. And although there are different interests at stake, ultimately the goal is to deliver a successful project. So the sooner things are surfaced, the sooner you can take action on them. And then collaboration, and truly working together as a team is different from working simultaneously. It's very brief. It's very hard for people to truly understand this though, because working together, again, does not mean to work in parallel. And when you do work together, you create a bond. These three elements together are there to create this bond. And once the team has bonded and is working towards the same goal, you will notice that there is something changes. That change becomes evident because you see people that are committed not just to delivering a successful project for the sake of it, but because they don't want to let the other people, the other team members down. They don't want to let the client down or their peers or anyone. It's about getting them all together, rowing in the same direction. So working with confidence and a smile, in my mind, is always a big contributor factor towards achieving success. Now, requirements. In most cases, businesses come to us with a large set of requirements. This could be like a spreadsheet with 400 different lines asking for minute details about what needs to be on the website. And I don't think that is the right approach to delivering a successful site or a successful solution, not just a site, but an overall solution. Businesses should come to us or to any agency really with intentions, and these intentions are to reach a goal. And the business should be providing an overview of what they would like to achieve and why, and a description of what they think is maybe the solution to their problem. So this is a way for us to understand where they're coming from, essentially. So these are perceived requirements. They are not necessarily the end requirements. Now, with that, we should then, the agency together with the platform and the third-party technology providers should draft out a solution and to illustrate how we're going to get there. And again, this is a split of responsibilities within the team in the initial phase. But this collaboration needs to happen because each one of the parties involved has a different level of experience and sees the project from a slightly different angle. So, for example, the platform will tell you, will help understand how to best leverage the platform itself to be able to reduce the amount of customizations that you have to deliver. And the agency will help to understand, for example, how to simplify or potentially completely automate some of the processes that instead the business feels that they should be doing themselves. So there are these different points of view, and it's important that this phase happens. Now, at the end of this, you would come out with a set of requirements, and these set of requirements are essentially the definitive list of requirements on which a further investigation then will need to be done during the discovery phase. So remember, this is still before even starting the project. We're talking about really looking into the different angles, looking at the project from different angles and coming up with a shared set of requirements that everybody feels that would help achieve the end goal. So the line at the bottom, I think it's concise enough, but requirements should come as a result of a collaborative effort. And that is really important. The other still important thing is that aligned minds doesn't mean like-minded minds. It's more about understanding how to work together on this and making sure that everybody understands that we're all working towards the same goal. I keep repeating this, but it is so important, rather than everybody agrees that this is the best thing to do. We're all going the same direction, but we all have different ideas and we all bring different value. Okay, so the next part is ambition. Now, this is where we start building a phasing approach. So we look at the long-term ambition, and this is way bigger than, for example, the KPIs that you may want to set as a client for the end of the year, or we want to go live by date X and we want to spend under X amount of dollars. So in this case, it's about, who do I want to be in 10 years time? How do I as a company want to be perceived, want to be seen? What defines success? That's where we are looking at. It's like kind of aim at the moon. And the second part we do from there is to break it down into milestones. So define what will need to be in place in the medium run. So like within, let's say, within reach. So something that people won't feel is too far away, but also something that is not going to be next week. So these milestones need to be there to give a bit of a vision and direction. But also they don't need to be abstract. So it's not, we're going to be the global leaders of the world. It's more about by 2020, end of 2021, we need to have increased our conversion rates and our customer new customers by, I don't know, 30%. Okay, and then you have the tasks which define what will need to be performed to be able to achieve those, to reach those milestones. So this is what creates a sustainable, value-aligned roadmap, because everybody knows what we're looking to achieve, not just what we're looking to build. The value is not in the code, because the code is in fact a liability. If you don't use it, it has a cost, and you need to maintain it and you need to evolve it. So in short, what we're looking to do here is to make sure that people look beyond the delivery, but they start looking at what the delivery means or enables the client to do in the medium long run. And then we have finally the processes, and these processes are often need to be simplified. So all stakeholders need to be able to work together with the same processes, and to do so, you really need to make sure that it's something memorable, something easy to do, that won't generate a massive amount of admin work to be able to comply with those processes, but they need to be effective. So when starting or before starting a project, it's I don't feel it's very important to understand how the agency prefers to, how the agency will approach the problem, or the project, sorry, not the problem. It is more important to understand how the agency likes to operate, so that then you can blend the processes together in a manner that will be sustainable for both, well, for all parties involved. Everybody needs to be able to respect them, and because it's a blended team, it requires blended processes. Now, on longer projects, it's really, really important to review these processes as the time goes by. Magento projects can be for maybe for startup companies, or for small, medium businesses. They can be as short as 1 to 4 months, but there are projects out there which may take a year to deliver because of the huge size of the business and complexities. Now, in those cases, in my mind, you should be realigning the processes virtually every month to make sure that everybody is still compliant with them. So a blended team needs blended processes. And that is something that I would like you to think about, because it has implications on many levels, and it needs to be considered. So remain flexible throughout the project. Now, this is it in terms of presentation. However, in these few minutes, it's not possible to dive into the details of this. And I have written an ebook recently that was published, and you can scan the QR code if you want, or you have a link at the bottom of the page. And these are non-technical advice for e-commerce replatforming projects. It is not strictly related to Magento itself. It's more agnostic, and I feel that, honestly speaking, it's not about the platform itself. It's about how you approach the project and how you work with the rest of the team. It's really, really important. Now, all these, however many pages there are, probably 20, 30 pages of content, they all focus on getting it right from the very beginning, with your team. And these are topics that are normally not explored during a discovery phase, and that normally aren't, questions that are not asked by merchants when they come to agencies like us. And this is something that I constantly have to highlight and start that conversation, and in a way educate my clients that there is more than just technical. This is a business critical project. It is very delicate, and we need to understand each other, and we need to sustain each other throughout the project, because it is complex. It has many implications and dependencies. And unless we all work together and we share the responsibilities of achieving success, it becomes complicated to remain aligned in the long run. So if you do this, I can promise you that if you do everything that is said on the ebook, I can definitely promise you that you will have a very nice journey, and your relationship with your agency is definitely going to be one that will last in the long run. So that is it for me, and thank you very much. So I will stop sharing my screen now, and maybe we can have a conversation.
Sure. Thank you so much, Maurizio. This was a really good presentation. We do have one question which I will share across on the Zoom chat box. Allow me a moment. So here we go. So roughly, how long do you think typically this collaboration and discovery should take in coming up with what exactly the customer requires?
Okay, so when we talk about what the customer requires, first of all, how much time do I have? Let's see. Okay, so to come up with requirements is, well, it's not a long process really. If what I've seen across specifically Magento projects is that it can take as little as a week to list all the requirements. And this is, again, before the discovery phase. It doesn't take a full week of work. It takes an elapsed time of a week to have these conversations with the clients. I normally organize 2 to maybe 3 short workshops. So these could be half an hour to an hour to discuss specific topics. However, once you have done this initial phase of requirements collection and you start the actual discovery phase, that's where it becomes more of a longer process, because some of these requirements may take quite a bit of time to actually properly define and investigate. So what I would say is that on a discovery phase that lasts less than a month in elapsed time, it's quite a speedy one. So either it's a very small project or it's very high level. So maybe the client wants to proceed more in an agile manner. In that case, it's like, okay, let's define the minimum requirements that need to be in place. So you start with a minimum viable project, and then you carry on in an agile manner to implement things as you kind of come up with them, or in a reactive manner based on how the customers are behaving on the website. If you are looking at a bigger implementation, so something for, let's say, a company of medium complexity, the discovery phase, in my experience, tends to last between 1 and 2.5 months. Now, again, it may not involve the entire 2.5 months, but you need to understand how much work the client has done before starting discovery. So what documentation is available, and do they have clarity over the processes that they do, or do they need to be built? If they need to be built, every time the agency goes back saying, okay, we need information about this specific topic, the client may take some time to come back to you with the information. So I would say that a medium-sized Magento project can take 1 to 2.5 months discovery. Very large projects, my preference is always to split the discovery. So you have a first high-level discovery where you look at the entire scope of the project in the long run. You then have a second discovery which focuses on the MVP alone, so on the minimum viable product, and you spec that out. While you implement that MVP, you carry on discovering the next phase of the project, and you kind of carry on that way. So the details are only written down in these phases. It's more of a staged approach to discovery. I hope this kind of answers your question.
Okay, Maurizio, I think that was helpful and that also answers the question of the attendee who asked. Let me see if there is anything else coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, I think we are good for now, or maybe I shall just wait for a minute to see if anyone would like to post further questions.
Well, meanwhile, do I have
Yeah.
a couple of minutes still?
Yeah, absolutely. You have.
Okay, so I went through the presentation very fast because then, I was hoping to start a bit of a conversation. I miss those days when we had face-to-face meetings and workshops and all that. So a couple of suggestions on how to approach a Magento project specifically, and these are maybe slightly more technical, but there are some things which are really, really important. So first of all, you need to understand the structure of your own products. Okay, so what I mean by this is that you need to look into your product information. You need to look at how this is divided. So Magento requires to work with attributes and attribute sets. So do you have that ready? In many cases, companies come to us saying we have a full catalog and everything, but at the end of the day, they have all the information about the product in their description. Now, the description, a Magento is not able to just pick up on the description and magically convert that into filters. You need to tell the system how that product is structured. So this is one point which tends to be a bit of a fail area from clients. So I strongly recommend that you deep dive into your products and that you take the opportunity of going onto a new platform, a new version of the platform, by really looking into the product information. That is absolutely critical. It helps with the conversions. It helps with the clarity of operations. It helps the agency with the data migration. So it's one of the probably most fundamental parts of from a slightly technical perspective of going onto a new platform, whatever platform there may be. But at least with Magento you have these attributes and attribute sets, and you really need to get a grip on that. And the second area which is important is your customers. Now you need to look into the way that segmentation works today, and it's not anymore about just dividing people in customer groups or in customer segments. It's more about delivering a unique experience to each one of them, each single individual. And to do that, you need to leverage more than just handcrafted segments. You need to be able to understand how each person browses the site, how each person looks at the content and kind of digests it. So for this, I would kind of always advise that you take a look at technologies out there on the market, because the trends change over time, and they change very quickly. So Magento is not a complete solution for the client. It's a complete e-commerce platform for sure. It's great, and it represents a chassis. It's the core foundations of your overall solution. But this solution needs to be enhanced, and these little components, like for example AI-driven personalization or AI-driven search or loyalty programs and all that, you need to be able to kind of plug them in and unplug them every time you need, so that you can carry on following the trends, while Magento at the core remains the core foundation. Many companies try to approach these projects by saying, let's leverage everything which is out of the box. So for example, if you have product recommendations on Magento, which you do, you would try to use those. But in some cases, for example, product recommendations, if you're not using like Sensei, or if you're not using some of the Commerce Edition tools, you would still, will they be enough? Because Magento will provide 80% of what everybody needs. Okay, it's the foundation, but then you can enhance it. So look at the MarTech ecosystem. There's like 10,000 different companies that can plug into the e-com system. It's really exciting, but it's something to explore. So I guess this is it for me. Are there any other questions?
I do not think there are any further questions.
Okay.
So I think there is one. Yeah,
Okay.
one last one. Okay, just Just allow me a moment. Okay, I've pasted here. Okay, what is the current trend of customers who have got UI UX improvement as a primary focus while moving to Magento platform?
Okay, we have two schools of thought here. So one is that the value, so the design or the UX focus is the thing that will differentiate the customer from their competitors. And the other school of thought is that design is there to enhance the experience, not to be the experience. So it's you should still design should be driven by data. So how the customers actually behave. So let me read this question again. What is the current trend of customers who have UX UI focus, improvement design as a primary focus while migrating? So what's the trend? I would say that lately what I'm seeing is that most companies are trying to be more cautious about the way they go about design, because the UX implementation, so the front-end implementation, is normally one of the areas that has quite severe implications in terms of budget. So if you are working on a more tight budget, then which this year in particular, with everything that's happened in the world, it does seem to be the case in many cases, that they would be trying to launch with something which represents well their brand values and brand guidelines, but they won't go full out on design. They will wait to see how people react to the new site and try to understand where new improvements need to be brought in. Now, once you have that, you can say, for example, if there is evidence that clients have lost a little bit of engagement compared to the previous version of the site, for example, then you may want to select an area of the site where you go all in on design to increase to improve the overall experience and increase the engagement. But normally what I'm seeing, at least I would say in the last 3 to 4 years, the trend has been that it's driven by data. There are so many tools out there now to see how customers are behaving, and just trying to build design based on assumptions is way more risky than designing something which is compliant with brand guidelines and then from there carry on evolving over time. Because remember, once you go live, that's not the end of the project, that's the beginning of your journey. So there is time to carry on improving. And in fact, gradual change is often better perceived by customers than an overall kind of revolution of the experience, and then it remains that way for the next 2 years. That's not ideal. So I would say that steady change with a start which is compliant with brand guidelines is what I'm seeing mostly, at least here in this side of the world. Here in Europe, it tends to be the best practice, let's say. Yeah.
Okay, Maurizio, there's one more question, but in interest of time, I will not ask you. I'll suggest you to go there and moderate and answer the question out there. So with this,
Okay.
guys, we shall end the session here and see you at the B2B panel discussion shortly. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, goodbye, everyone.